one of the most credible voices of information and of reassurance. Dr. Randeep Guleria, Director of AIMS, is joining us. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Guleria, my first question would be, what are the 3 or 4 learnings from the second wave that we have that can help us prepare better for the third wave?
So I think the 3 or 4 learnings that we've had from the second wave are, firstly, that we have to have a very aggressive surveillance system so that we are able to pick up a rise in number of cases and the development of any new variants which can be more infectious early, and then have a plan in action so that we are able to bring a containment strategy in place. It could be a lockdown in that area. It could be focusing on a lot of testing, tracking, and treatment. And at the same time, how we can sort of upscale the healthcare facility to provide care to these individuals. The third thing that we need to look at is to improve what I would say is COVID appropriate behavior, get people to understand the importance of better communication as far as COVID appropriate behavior is concerned. And the fourth thing that I would like to say finally is to push as much as we can for more and more people to get vaccinated. If we can do these 4 things, I think these are the main lessons that we've learned with the second wave.
Okay, Dr. Guleria, you spoke about following COVID appropriate behavior, and as citizens, surely there are, steps to take there. But on the government side, what were some of the key failures seen during the second wave?
So I don't think we can say there was a lot of failure from the government side. The government had prepared itself as much as it could, because the issue with COVID is that what we're looking at are 2 ends of the spectrum. One end of the spectrum is how do we decrease the number of cases, and the second end of the spectrum is how do we really increase our resources in terms of hospital care. Unless we're able to really match the two, it will really create a chaos. And this is what happened. We were not able to decrease the number of cases as aggressively as we should have. And this led to a huge strain as far as hospital care was concerned, ICU beds, oxygen, space, and things like that. So I think the issue that we need to look at is have a strategy in place where you are able to identify the increase or the surge quickly and be aggressive, both from individual point of view, from policymaker point of view, from, I would say, various sources. We were not aggressive in decreasing the number of cases as we should have. And I think that is one learning, that we should be very aggressive, because if the cases rise, the healthcare system will not be able to manage them. And we were not prepared for a new variant which would be so infectious. The Delta variant has now taken over as the most dominant variant globally. It started in India and it caused this huge surge. We were having 4 lakh cases a day. No health infrastructure globally, even in the developed world, would be able to manage 4 lakh cases a day. I mean, even if you look at US or any part of Europe. And that's what really caused it. So the issue would be not to have that huge surge that we saw in the second wave. And for that, we need to have aggressive action, both from citizen point of view, from policymaker point of view, so that we have aggressive containment, aggressive strategies of lockdown in that area, aggressive testing, and we make sure that the cases don't rise.
Dr. Guleria, I'd like for you to give us a sense of the delay that perhaps happened in recognizing the perils of the Delta variant, because it is believed that even though the sequencing happened, the communication of how virulent this particular strain was hadn't really gone through to the masses.
So I think here there is something that can be done, and here the issue is related to one, picking up a variant and then being able to decide how this variant is going to behave. Now, whenever you have a variant, the virus mutates regularly. You can have almost 2 to 3 mutations a month. Now, all these mutations are of not any significance, so it becomes a variant of interest. So the Delta variant could have been a variant of interest. Currently, the Delta Plus variant is a variant of interest because it is a variant which may not have any action. What you have to do is then observe and see how is this variant behaving. Is it causing more infection? Is it causing more death? Is it causing an immune escape mechanism so that now the vaccines are not working or people are getting reinfection? That data has to be compiled. And sometimes that data to be compiled and to be correlated with the new variant can take some time. This happened in UK also. The Alpha variant, which was first seen in UK, got picked up somewhere in September, October. But it took them till December to be able to really find that link that this variant is causing the huge surge in cases in the UK. And in November, December, they've had this huge surge. A similar thing happened in India. Only difference was that the Delta variant is even more infectious than the Alpha variant. And therefore, in a country like India, where there was crowding, where the COVID appropriate behavior had become less, the spread became much more rapid as compared to what we saw in the UK. And this led to this huge surge in the number of cases. So I think that is why I'm saying that we have to really have a mechanism in place where we're not only relying on the development or picking up the variant, but also looking at our positivity rate, looking at the number of people being admitted to hospital. And if that is going up, that in that area, irrespective of whether you pick up a variant or not, have an aggressive lockdown, have an aggressive strategy in place so that the cases don't spiral out of control.
Dr. Guleria, are there learnings when it comes to devising treatment plans for COVID patients? Because there was a belief that in the second wave, a lot of patients were over medicated, especially when it came to the use of steroids, and that itself, led to complications later. I'd like your view on that, sir.
So there are two or three things here. I think we need to devise not only treatment plan but treatment strategies also. Who should be admitted where? There was this observation in many hospitals that people who did not need to be in hospital got admitted and were blocking beds, and those who actually needed to be admitted were not able to get a bed. So a proper way of mechanism of making sure that those who actually need admission are admitted and people are not admitted just out of panic because of the fact that they are worried that they may have severe COVID. Remember, almost 80 to 85% of people have mild disease and can be managed at home. So if we keep that in mind, then we would be able to use our resources in a better manner. Second issue is, again, to be able to tackle the infodemic. The panic created was so much that people started treatment on their own. And some people started taking steroids on their own. Physicians started prescribing steroids when they were not indicated. As a matter of fact, there was data to show that steroids would be harmful if you were to take it in the early stage when you had really no fall in your saturation or your symptoms are all right, because it may actually promote viral replication and lead to what we call secondary infection, which could be bacterial or fungal. So I think the panic and the sort of cocktail of treatment that was given created more problems in the long run. And although there are guidelines, but I think we need to really make sure that these guidelines are understood and followed both by the patients and by the physicians in a better manner. And that is also something that needs to be done.
Absolutely. That's one of the more important learnings also when it comes to treating COVID patients during the second wave.